teachers. We are working journalists. We're engaged in journalism. I'm a Boston news gal from way back. And I can tell you, this is a terrific market because unlike other cities, you can cover anything here. Politics, are you kidding? We've got the state capitol here. We also have a bunch of presidential candidates from here. We have the New Hampshire primary just a bus ride away. And we also have sports. You can cover all our Titletown championships. Fenway is a walk away. We have education, obviously, is a huge issue here. Health, we're a medical mecca. So Boston as your backyard is a great place to be. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our current grad students, and I guess I'll play host. I'll introduce the grad student and have them introduce themselves and what they're pursuing here at BU. Okay, so we're going to start because he's right up at the corner of my little block here. Damien Burkhart, introduce yourself, where you're from, what you're doing, why you're here.
Hi everyone, congrats on getting in here at BU. I remember when I was in your shoes, that was a very big moment for me. I was just sending screenshot of that acceptance email to everyone from my family. Definitely won't forget that moment. I started my career in London when I covered sports for several publications, including The Guardian, The Independent, and The Sun. And here in Boston at BU, I've been focusing on broadcast journalism, American sports journalism, and also had a little venture into State House politics in that State House program that Professor Walker mentioned before. I think that's all about me. I'm looking forward to answering any of the questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Daphne Mark.
All right, thank you. It's kind of hard to follow Damien, but my name's Daphne. I'm originally from Fort Worth, Texas, and I did my undergrad at UC Santa Cruz in California. And it's funny, after Damien said that, I'm thinking about, oh, where was I when this open house happened? And it was such a totally different world, right? This was pre-COVID. I couldn't get off work, so I couldn't take the flight to Boston. So I just didn't go. Anyway, I hope I can answer the questions that I didn't get answered. Yes, my background is in science. I was a researcher before I came to Boston University, and I have to agree with everything that Professor Walker said. This is a great place to cover health. That's what I've been doing the majority of my stuff on. I'm in the global storytelling class, and I'm vying for that Pulitzer internship over the summer. So if you have any questions about that, or if your background isn't in journalism and you're curious about what that transition is like, I'm also happy to answer questions about that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. And now I turn to Laura Stickles.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura. I'm originally from Bishop, California. I did my undergrad at Stanford and then worked for 2 years. So I worked a year at Pac-12 Networks in San Francisco, and moving to Alaska, where I worked for a year as a sports reporter up there. And then I came to BU. My interest is in sports reporting. That's what I want to do. I want to be a sports reporter. And I want to do it all. I want to be on camera. I want to write. I want to podcast. I want to have a super, diverse skill set. That's what's really important to me. And there's been a lot of great opportunities at BU while I've been here. Also, I work really closely with BU TV 10 and with BU Athletics. So I color commentated the BU women's basketball games that aired on ESPN Plus. And I was a rinkside reporter for women's and men's hockey, which aired on NESN Plus and CBS Sports Live. So those were both great opportunities that I don't think I could have gotten at almost any other program that I went to. So I definitely think that for me, as somebody that's been interested in sports, that this is a great place for me to be.
Great. So thank you, Laura. Now I noticed we have like 44 participants. So maybe the best way to do Q&A, because I'm hoping you have questions for either ourselves or the students. Do you know the raise hand function? Those of you, everybody knows it right now. First of all, I just want to assure you that BU is going to be in-person classes in the fall. So let's just start with that, which means that unlike our current students, you'll have access to the facilities full on, like as Laura mentioned, BU TV, WTBU radio, the BU News Service website. And these are great places to get your reps. As I say, you need to learn how to report a story on any platform, whether it's a podcast or a print story or a video or long form documentary or short form web video. This is what we teach: how to report a story responsibly, compellingly. Is that a word? Mm-hmm. Visually. So all that skill set is here. So please, why don't you use your raise the hand function, and I'm going to take your questions, or you can put it in the chat box and I'll ask you to repeat it. So any questions?
Don't be shy.
All right, who's speaking? Oh, there we go. Okay, Abigail, please.
Hi. So I want to do science journalism, and I know that you guys used to have a program that was doing science journalism, but it's been since kind of dissolved. And I know that there are some classes for it. Are there still like enough classes that I could kind of like have like a concentration type of thing in doing that, or be able to like build my schedule around that, I guess, I think would be my question.
Bill, do you want to take that one?
Sure. The science journalism program had 2 full-time dedicated faculty members, both of whom retired, and we haven't replaced yet. But we've decided that having a separate degree in science journalism probably wasn't a good use of student time, because we felt like there was a lot was lost by having these separate programs. So now we are kind of pursuing it as more of a concentration in science, even though we don't have those faculty members anymore. We do have the global health storytelling class, and we have partnerships with various places at the university, mostly the School of Public Health. And our dean is just came here as being editor of Scientific American. We also have a good relationship with a news agency called STAT. If you've heard about it, it's just STAT. And it's a medical and science reporting site, originally a site, no print product, but it's produced by the Boston Globe. So we think that because of the community and because of the expertise of people around here, you can still have a concentration in science when you come out, even though your degree is going to be a general degree in, it'll actually be, the degree reads Master of Science in Journalism. So what else should I say, Susan?
No, that's fine. We now have more questions. So Sarah, would you like to speak up and ask your question? And Tanner, you're next.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I have a degree from NYU in business and interactive media. So I was wondering about like, how is the kind of the transition for somebody who's entering the journalism field for the first time, and like how is the preparation, I guess, for compared to somebody who's been doing journalism for 4 years in undergrad?
Well, let me throw that to Daphne Mark, because she's probably someone who could answer that, as well as Laura. So take it away, Daphne and Laura.
Yeah, totally. So like I said, my degrees in undergrad were in marine biology and theater. So I was not totally prepared to be a journalist, but like McKeon mentioned earlier, everyone gets these same, your first semester, all of the classes with your cohort are going to be the same. And that really makes sure that everybody gets up to the same level in terms of like journalistic ethics, in terms of skill when it comes to writing, skill when it comes to production, especially because in undergrad, even if you were to get a journalism undergrad, right, like you might be better at, producing video, or you might be better at writing. And this sort of makes sure that everyone gets at the same level. Sorry, my housemates are yelling in the background. So I would say that as a non-journalist, the transition was really smooth. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I will also mention, I think liberal arts backgrounds are terrific for journalists. I think it is journalism training, because you have to learn about the world to report on the world, right? I mean, I was an English major out of Brown, and I had to learn everything on my first year of the job, and you will here. You'll learn the tools, but the curiosity, the interest in every subject, the writing skills that you get from a liberal arts major, I wouldn't be too concerned. All right, Tanner Kern, you're up.
Wait, Laura was going to speak, remember?
Oh, I'm sorry, Laura. Do you want to add to that?
I'd love to contribute also, because I did come in with more of a journalism background, having written for my undergraduate paper and then doing it a little bit professionally. And I didn't feel like that, the first semester was teaching the basics, so everybody got on the same level, but having come in with experience, I didn't feel like that was a waste of time for me either. I still learned a lot from that. I'm thinking specifically about the journalism principles and techniques class that Professor Lair taught, which I loved. I thought I was going to come in and kind of, coast, because I had done it for a few years, but he really, kicked my butt, and I got a lot better. Like, my writing got so much better from that class. So everybody at every level can get something out of that first semester. It's just, what you put into it is really what you're going to get out of it.
And let me say one thing. We very rarely find that we have too many students coming in who already have a journalism background. And I think in that case, Laura and Damien are kind of different. And that's good. When we do get someone like that, it's usually that we've had a couple of students in recent years who I'd known years ago as my students at Florida. They came here to get a different set of skills. So usually if you have an undergrad in journalism, you don't go on necessarily and get your graduate degree in journalism. Okay, now to Tanner.
Tanner, you're up.
So I had a question for Laura and Damien. Can you guys just expand on some of the sports internships you guys have done while you're in school so far?
Damien, why don't you take this one?
Right, yes, thank you, Tanner. So in terms of internships, I've been writing for several months for LakersNation.com, basically covering the Lakers last season in that Orlando bubble, and this season as well. So that's, I think, from sports, that's mostly, in terms of internships, that's mostly it. But then at the same time, there are always opportunities to write about sports for BU News Service. There are always opportunities to cover sports for BU TV10, as Laura does, which is just like an internship, because it's the same kind of experience, depending if you want to write or if you want to be in the studio. You're getting a very similar experience to internship. So altogether, that's something that I've been doing for the last 2 years.
I'd also like to caveat this with, it was a pandemic. A lot of our students' internships got canceled along with
Oh yeah, that happened to me too.
So I think it's all going to open up a whole lot more. I mean, the fact that Damien was able to manage this kind of internship during a pandemic is pretty cool. I think it's going to be a different world, thankfully, in the fall. Thank you, Damien. Okay, also, Dion, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Dion Habachi has a couple of questions, so.
Hi, everyone. It is Diane, just spelled differently.
Diane, okay.
Diane. So I'm currently a liberal arts major with 2 concentrations, professional writing and languages. if they asked me about my dream position, I would say I want to be a news anchor, but I wasn't sure if, I think my question is, what does it take to be a news anchor? Do I have to have a master's in television, or can I have a master's in journalism and start maybe as a producer, reporter, going up to a news anchor? So
Well, I can take that one because I've worked with news anchors for most of my professional life. I would say this: it's a do-it-all world now. The days of sort of big name anchors in an anchor set, are kind of diminishing. And frankly, that was the world I grew up in. I produced some major names, major name anchors. All of them would tell you today, learn how to do everything. So you're not just being on camera, you're saying something interesting on camera, which involves writing and good video and possibly, when you start out, especially, shooting everything yourself and editing it yourself. So the anchor position is honestly, I think, going to be diminished. Let me put it that way, in terms of employment opportunities. That's not to say that employment opportunities aren't ripe for anchors who are journalists, or multimedia journalists, who can turn around a package, do a live report on the web, on TV, etc. Sitting behind an anchor desk reading copy, I think, is going to be probably gone in like 5 or 6 years. And most of the employers in the city will tell you the same thing in most major media markets. So work on your package making skills, your live reporting skills, your anchoring from anywhere skills. So yeah, Damien, take it away.
And yeah, I just wanted to add as well that one of the greatest things about this program is the flexibility. So if you want to do broadcast journalism, there are so many classes that focus on broadcast journalism and from, as you saw in that presentation before, from the second semester onwards, you are in charge basically of what you're studying. So you can really pick many broadcast journalism classes, and at the end of the day, plus if you also do some actual work for BUTV10, for example, which is a great college TV station that's won many Emmy awards. After 3 semesters of, again, if you put the reps in, your degree will say this is a Master's of Science degree in journalism, but then your resume will say it was very broadcast oriented, and that will also speak volume.
And you'll have your clips. All right, now this is an interesting question, and I'm sure all of you are thinking about this. I won't even say the name. Well, no, you can all see it in the chat box. This may be a loaded question, but what would you say makes Boston University stand out compared to competing schools? I'm currently in the process of making a final decision of where to attend, so I'd like to hear your input. I'm going to toss it to our current grads. Anybody want to answer that? I mean, you had choices, right? So a lot of you do. All right, Laura, take it away.
So I was similarly deciding between a few places, and I was a little bit torn, but I'm really glad that I picked BU. And a lot of that's because of the professors that are here. Mostly because they're just so incredibly generous with their time. And if you work hard and you do a good job, they will notice, and you will be rewarded for that. Like, you really will. Before coming here, I was late because I had just spent an hour and 45 minutes on Zoom with a professor right after a class. And literally this professor spends like up to 2 hours with me every single night on Monday, just answering my questions, helping me get better. And that's not just this professor. Like, I spent another hour on Zoom on Saturday with another professor who was helping me with my final project. Like, they're just so incredibly generous with their time. And beyond that, a lot of them still work in the field. And like I said, like, if you do a good job, they respect you, they will help you in the future. Like, those are really good connections to make. And that was one of the reasons why I ultimately chose BU, was because I felt like I would make those better connections. And it is, in my mind, a slightly smaller grad program than some of the others I was applying to. And I felt like I would be better able to make those connections and better position myself for when I do ultimately graduate, which is a big reason why I think all of you are in grad school or hoping to go to grad school. So I'm glad I made that decision and used my brain when doing that, because I'm really happy that I'm here. And I think it was definitely the best choice for me.
Thank you.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I originally applied for the science communication program that's kind of defunct. And so when I found out that that program was going to be canceled, I was really trying to decide whether I wanted to go with this sort of, general journalism degree, or if I wanted to go to other schools that had a science communications focus. And one of the big deciding factors for why I decided to choose BU was there's such a multimedia focus. And I really think that that's so important, is being able to determine which medium you want to use for the story that you're trying to tell. And I feel like in my time, this is my second semester already. I've been working on podcasts. I've got TV reels. I've got writing under my belt. You know what I mean? Like there's so much, and there's just so many options, even outside of classes. We've already like harped on this a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like through BU News Service, through the radio programs that you can do on campus, if you have an interest in a specific multimedia, you can really dive into it as much as you want, or you can generalize and you'll get you'll get a good amount of depth in everything. And so that was really important to me. And so if that's really important to you, then I recommend that as well.
Okay, let me, I'm getting lots of great, all right. I'm gonna speak to this question because I know there's a lot of international students on this call. One of our applicants, accepted students, said, can you speak a bit about the international student experience in terms of internships and post-grad job search? Damien, you want to take this one, being?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I will be honest, it's slightly more difficult to be an international student because of some of the restrictions that you have while on F1 visa. But that didn't stop me from getting many clips and so much like hands-on experience because of the practicality of the course. So you can, after a full year of study, you can actually get an internship. You can get a work authorization for that. That's a very simple process to do. If you find an internship after a full year, after 2 semesters, you are able to do that outside of the school. And then also at BU, again, apart from Buns, BU News Service and all the other college student media, there is the State House program. So for people who are interested in politics, this is basically an internship as well, because you're assigned to a newspaper and you're writing for them for the whole semester. You have to report from the State House, make your own connections. So this is like really hands-on experience. And I think there are, this might be, correct me if I'm wrong, Professor Walker, but I think there are other classes as well that have like some sort of connection to different newspapers, like Professor Martin's in-depth reporting, I think, yes. Or Professor, I don't remember, but there are many connections with all different local newspapers in Massachusetts, or even the Boston Globe. And very often, if you write a story, your final project in class, sometimes you have a chance to publish it somewhere else, which is again a clip that is very valuable for you in your career. So I think in terms of international student experience and like internship opportunities, that there are options despite the limitations, definitely.
All right, thank you. We build professional partnerships all the time. I'm going to skip ahead. Just Neil, tips regarding housing. I'm going to leave that to the BU Journalism Facebook page, which there's a Facebook page for people planning to come to Boston, where you can share tips about housing. Emily Russell, we've discussed a few of our major, okay, I'm interested in arts and culture. Are there opportunities within the city to write on that beat? So I'm going to turn you over to our professor of history of rock and roll, the best music journalism expert I know, Bill McKean, to take that one. Are there opportunities to write on that beat within the city?
Yes, we have a course in writing about the arts, and the fellow that teaches it runs a website that's called the artsfuse.org. Pretty sure it's .org. Anyway, the whole idea of that course is to get your work published, and he is really well connected. A lot of your work may end up being there, so you help to build an online portfolio through the ArtsViews. And there's also a really good arts page within WBUR. I think it's called the Artery.
Right.
Of course, we've got really good relationships with WBUR and WGBH, two public radio affiliates here. But obviously, this is a great city for the arts as well as for science and education and things like that. So I saw that question coming up, and yeah, that's definitely an opportunity for you.
All right, and transitioning here, I think Keyshawn Young, aren't you from Indiana?
Yes, he is.
I am. I'm from Indiana.
He has a question, and I want to hear it.
Yeah. So my question is with respect to, I don't know if this is actually like a real term, but explanatory journalism I've sort of been looking into recently. And so I sort of like have a new obsession with it because I'm very interested in particularly international reporting and with respect to the continent of Africa. And so I really like for information to have good context and be more accessible. And so I'm wondering if like some of the courses offered at BU can be leveraged for this particular area.
Oh yeah, definitely. Explanatory journalism is, maybe that's a synonym for narrative nonfiction. That's kind of one of our areas of specialty, but I think you'll find that there's so much expertise here at BU, both inside and outside of the department. Professor Walker reported and produced a documentary. Wasn't that an international project?
Yeah, no, it was a documentary that's on Amazon Prime about AIDS in South Africa among young girls. It's called A Tale of Teens, and I got Dave Matthews Band to donate music rights, thank God. And it's not paying for my kids' college education, but it's getting a message out there. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, a lot of these things, when you talk about like specialties, these are specialties you pursue in your journalism classes. Like they'll say, okay, what's your idea for a story? They're not going to like create a course called, environmental politics. They're going to want you to come up with story ideas in their journalism classes, whether it's radio or newspaper, print or online or TV, that have these specialties involved. So your content area is something you can build on. That's what I would say. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Let's see. Where are we? I'm a little behind here. Pietro wants to know if you can manage working while following the program. I'm just going to warn you right now. That's hard. We would like to say it's easy, but I would ask our journalism grad students, this is an intensive program. We have often tried to be very flexible with people working full time and taking the program, particularly given the economics of the situation. But grad students, do you want to talk to that? I just think this is an intensive program and it's kind of full time or not. I mean, we can work out various situations, but it's very, very hard, especially when you're taking production classes, to have to work 40 hours a week or whatever hours a week, and then not, show up for anyway. Any grad students want to address this currently? Okay, Daphne.
Yeah, I can talk about this. So I'm a TA for BU, and I TA 20 hours a week, and it's a lot. I'm just gonna say it right now. It's a lot. And to be totally honest, I don't know if I could do it if it wasn't, this is gonna sound so strange, but if it wasn't COVID times, I don't think I could do it, because so many things, like I don't have to travel as much, and that's really saved me a lot of time. So it is difficult, especially because I think one of the things that's really that you want to be doing is getting these clips. And that's what it takes time away from, is it takes time away from reporting, and it takes time away from building your portfolio and getting involved in other things like having a radio show or, stuff like that. But I will say that also being a TA really helps me, to hone my writing, and I get to practice being basically an editor. And so in its own way, it is also still building a lot of my skills. But I will say that it's really difficult. And sometimes you're going to have to, if you are going to need to work along with it, you're going to have to make some sacrifices in terms of, what clips you can produce and what sort of connections that you can make. So that's what I would say.
All right. Yeah, Laura, please.
So the work that I do with BU Athletics, that is paid. It's not paid, it's like basically minimum wage, but it's paid. And if I work 20 hours a week, like I am getting income from it. And that's one thing that I've tried to do whenever I take a job, is have it be like an internship or something that's paid, that's related to the area of interest that I'm going in. And similar to what Daphne was saying, is, the weeks when I am like working 3 games or something, like those weeks are really hard, especially balancing with course load. And yeah, it can be really difficult, but at least I know that the work that I am doing that's also paid is actually like contributing to my resume and can contribute to my reel and things of that nature. But I could never imagine working a full-time job and trying to do this program, or even like working, a 20-hour a week job that's not related to this program and what I want to do going forward.
Thank you, Laura. So we have a couple of questions that are almost related. Mackenzie Rummage and Sarah want to ask about opportunities for learning about foreign correspondent international reporting, and then followed up by, can you talk about the DC and the LA programs, and are they open for international students? Well, Bill, I'm going to have to toss this one to you. Our international programs, which include, believe it or not, DC and LA, have been very popular third semester options for our grad students. They've been closed down in the pandemic. I expect that they'll open up. Is that right, Bill?
Yes, they are. And it is kind of funny. It's now, they call it study abroad, I think, right?
Yeah. Even though that includes LA and Washington, DC.
Yeah, the Washington, DC program, of course, has a focus in political reporting and public policy. It's a great location. It's the residence hall is at Adams Morgan, and then the classrooms are at DuPont Circle. So it's just one stop away on the underground. In addition to that, we have a pretty vigorous study abroad program overall. A lot of our students like to go to the program in Sydney, for example, because there's a travel writing course there that's taught in the summer. And then we have also a popular program in Dublin. So yeah, you can pursue any of those opportunities. Kayla Ring is monitoring us. So she would step in, I think, if there's something that we can't really answer about international students, or whether there's any difficulty with that. So
yeah,
Kayla,
so international students can pursue these opportunities as well. I will say though, Bill, it's less common, and you can correct me, I haven't seen quite as many graduate students, again, because of the rigor of your program, pursue the Dublin or Sydney program. It's possible. We've had like a student pursue the Sydney program, but it's usually in addition to the 3 semesters that you're enrolled, because it is more work essentially that you're pursuing, whereas LA and DC can be more easily embedded into that final 3rd semester. But to answer that initial question, international students can equally pursue these opportunities. And it's oftentimes the time in which you're also pursuing an internship, because almost all of our abroad opportunities are kind of centered around an internship experience as well.
When I mentioned Dublin and Sydney, you're right. I'm thinking more of undergrads. I can't think of a grad student who's gone to either one of those. So thank you.
Kayla, well, we've got you up on pin. Can you answer the next question from Hannah Bagenstos? Back to working while in school topic, are we still able to apply for TA jobs or any other part-time work through BU right now?
Yes, so we will start opening some of those more TA opportunities. So that would be a teaching assistant, research assistant, and administrative roles. We often hire students within our office as well as several other offices across the College of Communication. And so we'll start opening some of those opportunities in April. But then, as Sarah and Bill can attest to, some of their TA opportunities are tentative surrounding their undergraduate student enrollment. And so don't be worried if you don't have a TA position secured right away in the next month or so. A lot of those opportunities will continue to become available over the summer and even in early September. I'm sure some of the students, Daphne or Laura or Damien, anyone who's had a position can kind of attest to the fact that we try and share those with you as often as possible through email initially, and then once we get you enrolled in classes, you'll start receiving something called the COM Graduate Student Newsletter, and that includes a lot of opportunities as well, and we send that out 2 to 3 times per month to students, and that's throughout the year. And so I think, Daphne, you said you had a TA position. How did you first find out about that?
Yeah, so originally I was in the COM 101 TA position, which is a lot of people really, really love that. And then I actually just received, so that was a 15-hour a week. And then I had a 5-hour a week that I got, just like you said, through email. A professor just sent an email out that was like, hey, I'm looking for 5 hours a week. And I responded to it and we went from there. So, and then again, this semester, the same thing happened. I found out via email that there was a position available and applied for it. So yeah, I would say that finding a job hasn't been very difficult for me. And I don't think, you know what I mean? There's always positions at the COM Writing Center, there's TA positions. I see stuff get advertised all the time. So I don't think it would be difficult if you wanted to pick up a couple hours.
So we have another question from Nellie Given. How big is the journalism cohort? I didn't even know that word before last year, cohort. Now with the pandemic, cohort's a real word. So good question. We have about 400 undergraduates, but we try to keep our program to between 35 to 40 grad students. And we honestly, we rely on you. We give you our frontline professors. We're like, you know, we want to work with you. I like to think of you developing skills that by second semester make you like junior colleagues in a newsroom. So our program is small. I call ourselves the brave, the mighty. You're not going to have huge lecture classes. You're going to get to know all of us, for better or worse. I think all of my grad students would say there's a little worse about me when I make them get up at 8 a.m. for a newsroom or even 7:30. But no, we're a small program. You're not going to get adjuncts in this program. You're not going to get, you know, people who are, I don't know, wherever they are. I'm not putting down other programs. I think there's some really great programs out there. You just have to find the right fit. So
it's a good size, and there are only 2 classes that you'll ever all be in together. And one is that beginning class that I teach, the Monday night symposium, and the law and ethics class. But most of the other classes, the largest one you'll be in will be about 20. So it's a nice size. It's, you know, other journalism programs brag, well, we're letting in 150 new master's students this fall. And I would think, you're not going to get to know anybody. So this is just about, it's kind of the Goldilocks of graduate programs. It's just the right size.
Just the right size,
And
like the right bowl of porridge. Laura, you're up.
I just wanted to jump in and say, again, it being a smaller graduate program was one of the reasons why I picked BU, and I'm glad for that. There is one of the best things that there's less, should I say, competition for getting time with professors, or just like, getting time generally. I think that it being a smaller program is definitely to its advantage, definitely.
Kayla, you want to jump in on this?
Oh yes, I did want to add one thing, that our program uniquely, in comparison to some other communication schools, we have one very small PhD program. So Susan actually touched on my point, but because we have not very many doctoral programs or doctoral students and none in this program, you are truly the junior colleagues. And so that does mean, as far as like TA positions, graders, if a professor's working on a book, they're pointing to you to assist them or posting opportunities. So I think that also is a benefit when I've spoken with colleagues at other schools, is that our master's students are really held to high esteem. And that's in part because we have a small doctoral program. And so you are really the editors and assistants and a core part of the community at the College of Communication.
And we have a question here from Anna. Yes.
Yes, hello everyone. I've got a question for the grad students, the current grad students, on why they chose to pursue the field and specifically go to grad school for journalism. Usually, my dad's a journalist, and I remember when I first mentioned to him, like, oh, I want to go to grad school for journalism, his first response was like, why? And I feel like I've gotten that response from many people, like, why do you want to do this? So yeah, I just wanted to hear your responses and your opinion.
Who wants to take that? Daphne, Damien, Laura, journalists of tomorrow.
Well, okay, I think mine is really simple, which is just that, it's not what I wanted to move forward with science communication specifically, right? And so I had the science background and I wanted to move forward with my skills in this different arena that would make me, more like suitable for employment. But I feel like it's totally different if you're a journalism undergrad. So I'm actually really interested in hearing what Damien and Laura have to say about it.
Okay, Damien.
Well, I think that if your dad is a journalist, so then he's like from the older guard, and they probably like among those people, the journalism degrees are still like kind of frowned upon. But I think that now and more so in the future, like it will be very difficult to get into the industry without a degree, because there is so much going on. The industry is just like moving so fast right now. So without that key experience and like without the editors or potential employers knowing that you have all the basic skills or even more in your toolbox, I don't think it will be possible to get a job in the industry as it was the case years ago. And on top of that, like in my case, I also asked myself that question, like, why would you get a grad degree in journalism if you already have one? But then again, like because of the flexibility of the course, I just still felt after my undergrad that I could still do much more, and like I could learn much more. It was very basics, that the basic skills that I got, it gave me a job afterwards, but I still felt like something I could improve in broadcast journalism, and like maybe I can try documentaries. Maybe I'm thinking of writing a book in the future. So narrative journalism, which is, as Professor Markin mentioned, that's one of the highlights of the course as well. So there are just many things that you can just try for yourself and just see what you're comfortable with and what you like. And I think that's a big reason why pursuing a grad degree in journalism is something to consider and something to actually pursue.
I will say this about journalism: the industry is not dying. The form of how you report is changing, but content is king, especially in the streaming world where everybody's getting everything online. They want good content, and you got to believe that once we fix the business model, it's gonna be a ripe profession. And I would also tell you that if you have the ability to report a story in a responsible, compelling way, those skills are transferable across business, across marketing, across all kinds of professions. Bill, do you want to add to that? I mean, we're not a dying industry. We're a really important industry, especially now.
No, I talk about this a lot, and it's probably in that posted presentation, but I said, when I'm talking to students, I say, I'm sure that you've heard this from your families. Why do you want to go into journalism? It's a dying business. And I said, do not confuse journalism with the newspaper business.
Yeah.
Newspapers are evolving and they may be changing, and I may not be willing to write them off, but I wouldn't call them print anymore. I'd call them text. And all of the text is online. But if journalism is a dying business, then we are nearing extinction as a species. Because as long as we've been alive, we've been demanding stories of people. And so to me, it's like, this is the best and most important time to go into journalism because
democracy depends on you, honestly.
Right. So, calmly, just if you have parents or friends who think you're insane, just give them a copy of that presentation where I talk about how the importance of storytelling. Telling true stories is more important now than it ever has been. And it doesn't matter how you get them. It doesn't matter if they're on your phone or on your laptop or beamed into your skull. It doesn't matter. The story is what counts. The information is what counts. The delivery system, not so much.
All right, Devin, you had your hand up for a long virtual time.
Thank you. Hi. So I'm really curious as to know what the day-to-day schedule of a grad student is. So in addition to the courses, what other opportunities do you have, whether that's working with professors on projects, or I know some of you mentioned like a radio station or the school paper, things like that.
Grad students, who wants to take that one? What's your day-to-day life? I know it's waking you up early on Wednesdays, but what else? Who wants to take it? Laura, Damien, Daphne, your call.
Okay, I think whenever anybody asks this question, I feel like everybody always says, oh, well, every day is different. But I think one thing that you should be expecting with this program is that like every day you'll be working on reporting a story, whether that be for a class or for the job you're doing. Like today I was on the phone trying to call somebody for a story that I was working. I called like 3 people trying to report a story. So for example, tomorrow, I don't have class tomorrow, but I will be spending all day reporting, trying to put together the story that I'm working on concussions, like high school concussions in Massachusetts. And so what comes to the nature of reporting, like no day looks the same, but you can definitely count on constantly doing that.
And Abigail, you had a question.
Yeah, so I know that we have to take, I think it's 6 elective courses as part of the degree.
Yeah.
Suggest that we take courses specific to like what our goals are, or do you expect, say, okay, branch out more than what you're used to? Like as professors, like do you think it's more useful for us to stick with kind of what we're looking for as career path wise, or branch out?
Well, here's what I would say. You have 6 required courses. The other 6 should be a dive into the platform you're interested in, whether it's radio, TV, online, text, and also the subject you're interested in, whether it's health or state house political reporting or arts reporting or even enterprise reporting, or there's a fabulous course taught about covering technology. I would mix it up with that because I think that you need the background of the required courses, but then you need to do your dive into your chosen content and platform area. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I was just kind of like what ones do you think are like most valuable to take, like in terms of that? So I guess that answers it in a way.
Yeah, I think your best advice is when your first semester is pretty much a big required journalism deep dive, a bath in journalism. And at that time, you're going to learn a lot about other courses. You're going to hear from the third semester grads about what they would recommend. I think all of that is doable. I wouldn't do that, 3-semester course planning thing that, I think it's a dynamic, evolving situation. I think a lot of our grad students come into our first semester thinking they want to study one thing and then discovering another. They're pretty committed, but there's always room for discovery, whether it's what you want to do podcasts over TV, whether you want to do print over, or whether you want to do business reporting over political reporting. I mean, there's those opportunities. So leave yourself open a little bit.
Yeah, don't feel you have to confine yourself to one.
Yeah.
The more the better.
Right. All right. We should probably wrap this up because I think they might dump us out of Zoom, but there's something, let me see, have I covered questions? Something about, Rashik is asking about development journalism. I'm not sure what is development journalism? Is Rashik here? Here he is. Can you speak up? I just want to make sure I answer your question. All right, I'm not sure. So another one is SEO articles. Is that search engine optimization?
Yeah.
Are there any courses? Yes. So here's the thing. Oh, Sharon, we have, which will help news reporting or articulate. So we have a very strong data journalism program. We have 2 professors committed to this kind of thing. We also have Michelle Johnson, who's just a guru of online journalism. She founded the first website for the Boston Globe newspaper, and she teaches online journalism. So she is always looking for people who, I believe, if I remember your application correctly, are like you with a technology background who wants to get into how to apply that to journalism, if that answers your question. So I hope that most of you have been had emails from faculty members we assigned you to, but Michelle Johnson would be somebody who could talk to you. Thank you, Kayla. All right, any other last questions? You guys have had some great questions, and that forebodes wonderful journalism because you have to ask questions, right? So you're probably all ready for dinner or nighttime or whatever, wherever you are. But it's been great to see all of you. And I hope that you'll join us in the fall. That's all I'm going to say.
And can I add one thing? I know Professor McKeon has mentioned his presentation a few times. So we'll also be posting this recording, the recording from our alumni session immediately before this at 6 p.m. And you'll have an opportunity to review his presentation if you hadn't had the chance previously. So all of this will be posted ideally by the end of the week, and then we'll send you an email. So we hope we're sending you too many emails, but we want to make sure you don't miss anything. But all of this will be posted with the link where you can access it moving forward if you want to refer to it at any time.
And I'd like to thank our grad students for joining us tonight. That was very generous of their time, because I know that's Laura Stickles and Daphne Mark and Damien Burkhart. So thank you all.
Thank you. And thank you, Kayla and Sarah, for being on the line. We appreciate it.
Do appreciate it.
Bye, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you for all of your time.
Write with questions. Send postcards.